Good afternoon and welcome to AAHP Shopper Panel in the New Era of COVID webinar. Thank you very much for attending. We have a great program for you today with some very interesting information that we have gathered from homeopathic shoppers during this unique period that we've all been in. And we're looking forward to sharing that information with you. Before I turn the panel over to our moderator, I would just like to make a few acknowledgments. First of all, our partners in developing this content for you today, the Emerson Group, very strong supporter of the AAHP and many of AAHP's members. The Markins Group, professional trade association management firm that has been instrumental in developing the content as well as the delivery of this information for you today. The National Center for Homeopathy, America's Homeopathic Center for Consumers of Homeopathic Medicine. The Holistic Moms Network, Joette Calabrese and Friends. Racier Press, who is the publisher of Pain Drug Review and mass market retailer. And finally, Boiron. Thank you very much to all of our partners in this endeavor. I'd also like to introduce a few housekeeping rules. First of all, while you have a number of options to submit questions, we would prefer that you use the Q&A section to submit questions for the panelists. We will only be taking questions via the Q&A option on your screen. Chat will not get to the panelists. There will be a Q&A discussion that will open up after the panel discussion, and we look forward to answering your questions at that time. The full report of information on our review of shopping habits will be available in August, free to members of AAHP and available by purchase for non-members. Thank you again for joining us today. And now let me introduce Andrea Fallon. Andrea is the Executive Vice President of Strategy at Racier Press. Andrea oversees the strategic and creative initiatives for Pain Drug Review and MMR, mass market retailer, including new events, digital programs, and advertising campaigns. Thank you very much for hosting this event today, Andrea. We look forward to it.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Welcome. I would also like to thank AAHP for inviting me to moderate this very exciting event. I was thrilled at the opportunity, and I did a little homework and discovered that AAHP is approaching its 100th year anniversary. So they were founded in 1923, and today this trade organization is recognized in DC as the voice of homeopathy. They are a great resource for information on compliance and regulation. Before I introduce our esteemed panelists, I would like to share some information on the survey that was put together for today's event. So first, the information is extremely fresh. The survey took place between mid-June and mid-July. Also, it's large. We have 592 respondents. And it's very important to know that these respondents are your natural core homeopathic consumer. So these are consumers who typically shop at natural stores. They don't frequent your mainstream or conventional retail stores. Today, we'll learn a lot about these consumers' behaviors pre-COVID, during COVID, and what to anticipate. So we will move on to introducing our panelists. First, I would like to introduce Lisa Lennon. Lisa is the social media and marketing manager for the Holistic Moms Network, which we will often refer to as HMN today. The Holistic Moms Network is a very large organization. I think Lisa indicated that they have 150,000 Facebook followers. They have 70 local chapters, and they also have many in-person and virtual events. They're a great resource for information on natural and green living. Next, we have Dr. Lori Grossman. Dr. Grossman has been practicing in New York City for 30 years. In addition to having her own practice, she educates New York City physicians at local hospitals on homeopathy, and she's also the president of the National Center for Homeopathy. And our third panelist is Joette Calabrese. Joette is extremely well known in the industry, and she is the founder of Practical Homeopathy. She offers a great amount of resources on her site. She has a weekly Facebook Live video. She has a podcast, a blog, and she's a published author. So Joette, I'm going to start the panel with you. You have such a large following, and can you talk about your homeopathic follower and their level of knowledge on the products? Can they differentiate between the ingredients in a homeopathic product and a conventional OTC product?
Well, the survey showed that 50% of these shoppers indeed understand exactly what homeopathy is, and another 40% have an idea. But manufacturers, there's no doubt about it, manufacturers have more work to do, and so do representatives of them. But here's the thing, I think it depends on what we mean when we say understand what homeopathy is. A lot of times people think they do understand and they don't truly have a full understanding, but to be honest, I don't believe that matters as much. It's not the characteristics of homeopathy that matter, it's the benefits. So, and that's what the consumers are looking for. So we need to identify their pain, not headache pain. I mean, they're suffering. What are their needs? What are they looking for? And once we identify that, and it's pretty clear, that then we can give them exactly what they're looking for. So I believe that their needs are, number one, convenience. And number two, efficacy. They want something that's going to work. I mean, why would you bother otherwise? Price is in there, but I think many people would be willing to pay a little bit more for this or that if they knew that it was going to be effective for their family members.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Grossman, you've been practicing for 30 years. Can you share your patients' level of satisfaction?
I would, as you can see from the survey, 95% of homeopathic users are satisfied with the products. And I certainly hear that in my practice. And I think that's the reason why physicians frequently contact me and attend my workshops to learn more about homeopathy, because so many of their patients have mentioned to them, in addition to the care that the physician is giving them, that they've gone to the health food store or the drugstore and picked up homeopathic remedies, and surprisingly or not, they were very effective. And I think with homeopathy, oftentimes people feel that it works far speedier than they expected as well. The only time when I see dissatisfied or very dissatisfied, that's generally because people haven't had enough education. And oftentimes because they selected the incorrect remedy for the condition that they were trying to alleviate. And I know there are others that agree with me. I think the biggest weakness in selling homeopathic products is really education. And the second weakness is education. And the third weakness is education. Because the people who are dissatisfied usually have not selected the proper homeopathic remedy. And so it behooves the small retailer, it behooves the person who's selling homeopathic remedies on a website to have information that people can read, so they can learn exactly that for this homeopathic product for menstrual cramps, it's best if your menstrual cramps get better from a warm application or a warm hot water bottle against you, and that homeopathic remedy is better for a slightly different symptom. So it's education, 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 because with the right guidance, more than 95% of the people are happy with homeopathic products.
Thank you. So Lisa, education, education, education. Your group doesn't necessarily represent the core homeopathic consumer. They're focused on holistic and green living. How do you see your followers learning about the products, and how are they educating themselves?
Right, so these results are in alignment with why the Holistic Moms Network was founded. Moms like to connect and share and learn from other moms. So the survey showed 3 primary ways that people learn about homeopathy. And one is recommendations through friends and family. And then the second would be recommendations through healthcare professionals, and then personal research following. So in our organization, sharing looks different from group to group, with the exception of our monthly gatherings. So each local volunteer facilitates those gatherings. Under normal circumstances, that's in person. So these are the events where we might invite a homeopath to speak to our group, for example. We also participate in other events where we might just have more casual conversation about it. There's always the text in the middle of the night with a friend, like when a fever spikes or something like that. But we also participate in things like group or bulk buys. So we're taking advantage of lower prices or offers like free shipping with our like-minded friends.
Great, thank you. Going back to you, Dr. Grossman. So it's clear that the educated consumer is highly satisfied with the product. What is it exactly that they like about the homeopathic products compared to conventional OTC products?
Well, I invite everybody to look at this slide because it illustrates that perfectly. The survey shows that the safety profile was the biggest appeal, followed by natural ingredients and efficacy. What I would add to that is that, and what I said previously, is the speed of a properly selected homeopathic remedy. And even on top of that, when people are shopping for natural products, they want things that don't have unwanted side effects, you know. But homeopathy, not only does it have very few unwanted side effects when used properly, it has many associated positive effects. So oftentimes when you take a properly prescribed or properly selected homeopathic remedy, you might also see other benefits in your health. And that usually is a surprise for anybody. They take a homeopathic remedy, say for allergies, but then they find out that their mood is more stable, or they take a homeopathic remedy that's for digestion and they find they sleep through the night better. So these other unexpected benefits that come along with improved health are always a delight for everybody. And that's oftentimes what gets people to buy that remedy again, or other remedies, or for other remedies, or to then really call out to friends and go, you know, this is not just for this one thing. My overall health improved. So I would really encourage you to try it for your family, your friends, join the Holistic Health Network, take a course on Facebook, and really learn more about homeopathy.
Great. As the survey showed that there really is nothing that our respondents dislike about the products other than price. Accessibility is the second deterrent. So I'm going to share some other results from the survey. First, the survey showed that 91% of the respondents keep the products in their pantry at all times. 85% of the respondents indicated that they would purchase with a coupon, and 76% indicated that they were more likely to purchase a product that is on sale. So Lisa, I found it very interesting that the consumers pre-COVID were clinging on to the behaviors of making their purchases in stores at natural stores. So there's 43% who have shopped at natural stores, and 17% shopped online. Can you weigh in on this?
Sure. So, you know, the survey showed that they chose the type of store because of time savings over money savings. The top factors being convenience, products in stock, and easy to find in the store. So moms want to go where they know they can get in and out with everything on their list in a short amount of time. And these might be points to note for the larger stores.
Yes, it's clear that the biggest deterrents are poor selection and staff knowledge, which could easily be addressed. Joette, so the consumers, it's clear that the educated consumers, they consider a homeopathic product to be an OTC product. However, they're favoring the vitamin and the supplement aisle to seek out products and make their purchases. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first, this might be a survey flaw. If these natural shoppers primarily shop in health food stores, there might not be a traditional OTC section. Secondly, the results reinforce that people shop by structure function, as retailers often say. So if larger retailers have both a vitamin section and an OTC, there's opportunity to help the natural shopper more easily find homeopathy by placing it in both sections. And I have to say that it's that those who know very little about homeopathy and are looking at in the OTC section, obviously what they're looking for is relief from something. And if they can find something that gives them relief from that something, that declares that it has little to no side effects, that is relatively safe, that has been known to take care of this particular condition, you're comparing in such a powerful way. Why not go with, even if they don't know what the word homeopathy means, why not go with that idea that it's holistic? So I would hate to see that those potential shoppers be eliminated from any possibility of being inspired by their first purchase and finding it to be, as Laurie said, getting rid of those satellite conditions in addition to what they had hoped for.
Yes, Joe, yesterday when we went to rehearsal, you made a great point about, you compared it to organic food. And when you have an organic food product, you're not necessarily going to look for the organic destination. You want to look within your regular oatmeal section to find your organic oatmeal. So I thought that was an excellent point.
Yeah, what my thought was that if you're looking, let's say you're looking for oatmeal and you're not even thinking of purchasing organic necessarily, but look, here's the organic right next to it and it looks just as good. Perhaps it's a few cents more, maybe it isn't, maybe it's plenty more. But when you weigh the two and you've got a child who's got allergies sitting in the cart next to you, you're thinking, well, maybe I should be going for something a little more pure. It's not a difficult sell, I believe, in these days of chronic allergies in children and lots of chronic conditions in families for moms to say, look, what, another 5%? I'm going for it. But if it's not there next to the oatmeal, the organic is not there, then they're gonna say, well, I guess this is all that's available, without having the time to move that cart around with the crying child and the clinging one on the floor and the one waiting at home for the bus to drop them off. They don't have the time to go digging around. We have to make it easy for them, is what I'm saying.
Are you following me when I shop?
I know you.
So we're going to move on to the COVID behaviors. Survey shows that 50% of the respondents, and again, I'll reiterate, it's nearly 600 respondents, 50% did not have any changes in their behaviors. However, 33% did indicate that they stockpiled. So watch out for that in Q3 and Q4. Also, it's anticipated that because of COVID, there was an uptick in online purchasing. So Amazon was the primary source destination. However, it's very interesting to see that the natural online retailers were very close behind Amazon. The other interesting thing that came out of the survey is that a third of the homeopathic core consumers didn't make any online purchases before or during the pandemic. Dr. Grossman, can you weigh in on this?
Sure, I'd love to. So this just shows all of us that it's time to look into the smaller categories, the smaller online stores, such as practitioners who are now selling directly to their patients. Patients now trust their practitioners already, so they're more likely to trust the practitioner to go on their website and to order through them. It's also a chance for manufacturers to go directly to the consumer. So as a healthcare practitioner, the most difficult thing is when patients can't find their remedies or can't find a homeopathic product that they've read about that they want. So it behooves the manufacturers and it behooves the stores to stock the remedies, as Joette has already said, buy the natural items and then also buy that topic. Homeopathy overlaps a lot of divisions. I used to say that the homeopathic shopper is not always a granola eater. You can't only put the homeopathic products in the natural food section. You have to also offer the homeopathic products to the Cheerios eater. So it has to be in the aisle that the person who wouldn't normally shop in Whole Foods or wouldn't normally shop in a natural food stores might be able to purchase it. Because one thing is efficacy, safety, few side effects, overall enhanced health. Every single mom on the planet, whether they're a natural mom who lives in Brooklyn and shops at a food co-op, or they're a very, very conservative traditional mom who goes to church or synagogue every single weekend, they want to be able to find their homeopathic products where they're comfortable. So not only in the different aisles of the store, but also in the different kinds of stores, such as a big box store, a natural food store, in food co-ops and the like. I think the opportunities are endless. I think that more and more places can carry homeopathic products that we didn't think of. You know, initially you couldn't get homeopathic products in a pharmacy in the US. You could only get them in health food stores. And in Europe, you could only get them in pharmaceutical shops. You could never get it in a natural food store. And now we're seeing all this overlapping and interlinking and networking. And I think that's the way to go.
Thank you. And to your point, by having it accessible and available, that's providing a convenience for the consumer, which leads into the next slide. Lisa, we're seeing that the homeopathic mom, she will make a purchase on convenience rather than price. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so, you know, convenience was number one when choosing that online realtor, but convenience has its limits. So price was ranked as slightly more important factor when shopping online. I might be able to avoid shipping costs if I have like-minded HMN friends to place an order with, but not everyone is part of a group like ours. So it's definitely not convenient or cost efficient if you're purchasing just one item. For example, if you're a new homeopathy user and you need something quickly and you know that one item is what you need. I might also be able to find a better price by comparison shopping online, which is easier than comparison shopping in a store. So.
Great, thank you. Well, we've gone through these questions very efficiently. And the last slide is for Joette. Nearly half of the respondents indicated that they will resume their normal shopping behaviors when COVID clears up. Joette, what do you think about this?
Well, yes. However, you can see that 18% say they now buy most of all their homeopathic medicines online and plan to in the future. So if Amazon remains as the online king, consumers will need online resources to answer questions about homeopathy. So I see it that there's an opportunity for manufacturers to develop educational programs with me, with Holistic Moms Network, with the National Center for Homeopathy. That's where that information is going to be most readily available and least painful for their learning experience.
Thank you.
One other thing I just want to add, I don't know if this is possible with Amazon, but pop-ups from experts is a great idea if it stays through Amazon. But having, you know, when you're about to purchase a carpet or something, someone pops up and says, "How can I help you? I'm here to answer any of your questions." I think that kind of service could be very valuable, particularly for, and I think it was Lisa who said at 3 a.m, when the child has a fever and the mom doesn't know what to do, to have someone pop up and become alive in her life could be very valuable to help her understand what to do next.
Great, thank you. So before I hand it over to Mark, I'm going to address any questions that you may have for our panelists or for our AHP representatives today. So we have a question from Barbara from Boron to Dr. Grossman. The question is, single medicines only have room on the label to print one indication, such as dry cough, but it can help with a broader range of indications, like joint stiffness, for example. Where would a consumer go to find information on the broader range of indications and choose the best medicine?
I'm thrilled that you asked that question, because that's my biggest pet peeve about homeopathy, that we are required to put an indication on the label, and it's one indication of many. And when you say the best place for education, needless to say, the National Center for Homeopathy has a website, homeopathycenter.org. Joette Calabrese also has a website. I think that was mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. But a good, reliable website becomes essential. Most manufacturers actually do have information on their site. I'm familiar with Boron, Washington Homeopathics, Highlands, and I don't mean to just single them out. Most manufacturers do have good information that's updated frequently on their websites. I'm actually working on the project with the National Center for Homeopathy, where we're completely redoing our website so that the information on the particular remedies is put in succinct, modern lingo that's beneficial for a shopping mom. And I think that was one of the difficulties in the past. But as I said, there are many good online shops. I would say the National Center has one. I know Joette does a lot of teaching. Lisa, I'm not so sure the Holistic Moms has homeopathic information, but there are, as a matter of fact, I think after this webinar, if perhaps Mark Land can provide a list of websites for everybody, that would be wonderful, because that's what makes the difference, really good information.
Yeah, I will say that, as currently the Holistic Moms Network offers an e-course as part of our membership, a homeopathy e-course. And then I mentioned those individual gatherings. We have some of our local communities who are doing those small group educational informational sessions using some kits from Boron. And I know that in our newsletter as well, from time to time, we will share information either from National Center for Homeopathy or Boron. And, I could also say where I have found information, but going back to what I said earlier, it started out with my friends. So getting the word out and then learning that Materia Medica was a thing.
Lisa, I'm glad you said that word. The word Materia Medica is a common word for those of us practicing homeopathy, teaching homeopathy, manufacturing homeopathic remedies. But the average Joe or Jane has no clue what that word Materia Medica is. And basically, to them, Materia Medica is a book that tells you what the remedies are for. And I think that easy to read, easy to use guides are really what the public needs. And I know that on the National Center for Homeopathy, Find a Remedy portion of our website is our most highly clicked page on our website. We get tens of thousands of clicks a week just on that one page, which is, someone lists a complaint and we go into detail about what the different remedies would be good for. But that's my pet peeve, that you can only list one thing on the label. That's why we need someone in the stores. That's why we need a booklet by the displays.
But may I also add that that's why I like combination medicines. We know them as combinations, but to the general public, children's Chestol, sinus calm, those kinds of medicines kind of say it all. So that's not all of homeopathy, but it's a small segment that can get people started. And I often teach my students and on my blog, listen, folks, if you're using a medicine that's a homeopathic medicine that says children's Chestol and it acts, it works, turn it over, read the ingredients. Now you know exactly what has acted, because you can tell by not only the name of the homeopathic medicine, because there are usually only about 5 medicines in there, and then you can look it up online, or you can do, as you said, Dr. Grossman, go to a Materia Medica if they want to go that far. So what I love also is that now, because of the advent of the internet, which is really not an advent any longer, I guess, right? Is that people can go to National Center for Homeopathy and look up their condition. If they go to my website, they say they just put in Joette Calabrese's ear infection. Now you look at what I've said and what I'm discussing and what the NCH is discussing, and you consolidate those, and maybe what Lisa's got in her group. Now this is how a mom fleshes out what's going on with that otitis media or that chest cold. So it's, and I will tell you that what most people find is once the medicine works one time, they are absolutely taken by it. They're completely taken by the fact that it's so efficacious. Not unlike what Dr. Grossman said earlier, it's not just the chest cold that's gone, the energy is back. The behavior has subdued. The sleep is restored. Beautiful thing that we can expect from homeopathy when we use the correct medicines.
Those are great points. And it also calls to mind something that Lisa had mentioned to me the other day, is that, you know, she sees her network of moms as the best label and ingredient readers around. So you are reaching a educated or inquisitive audience. So the next question is back to you, Joette. It's from Ben Fishman from Emerson Group. Hi, Ben. Joette, even though people may expect homeopathy to be a vitamin, from an educational perspective, for many stream retail shoppers, would it be confusing or better to be there? Are there important differences between homeopathic items and traditional DMS?
Oh, there's no doubt there's a huge difference. But I don't know that we need to make that differentiation when the child has an ear infection. To be honest, I really think that it's important that we seize the moment and help her out at that time. And then after it's been valuable in her life, now she can start deciphering. But if we try to educate to the point we're saying, no, homeopathy is different. It's not vitamins, it's not supplements. After a while, her eyes are going to glaze over, because remember, she's got the shopping cart with the child that's crying, the other one that's clinging on her leg, and the other one that's waiting to get off the bus any minute. All she wants is efficacy and safety. And from that point, and of course price, but I think price is not nearly as important given the low price of homeopathic medicines.
Great. And as we're talking about resources, I will just send a reminder to all who are watching. Great resources on information are our hosts, AHP, the NCH website, Holistic Moms Network, and homeopathycenter.org. So the next question comes from Fanny from Boron to Dr. Grossman. What is the value of specialty products, combination medicines, in introducing consumers to homeopathy? I know that you did touch on that a little bit earlier. Joette did a good job of touching on that, but is there anything you would like to expand?
Well, I'm not quite sure I understand what the word specialty products are. Is that the combination remedies?
That's what she was referring to.
Okay. As Joette said, I think they're invaluable. They're so easy to, you know, if something's called cycles and you have problems with your menstrual cycle and it says cycles PMS, hey, you found it. You don't have to look in a book. You don't have to go on a website. It's in your bag. You're done. So I think it's invaluable for the intro shopper. And just as Joette and Lisa said, many moms and the average consumer, they're not only are they intelligent, they're curious and they're caring. So if they get great results, they're going to want to, of their own accord, not because I'm clobbering them over the head, of their own accord, they're going to want to know more. You know, I was introduced to homeopathy because my 6-month-old son had 105-degree fever. And a physician from Germany, who was a guest physician at the center I went to, told me something homeopathic would ease the fever quickly and speedily with no side effects. And he gave me something to give to my son. My son responded beautifully. And I remember shortly after we went home and all I was doing was praising God for that fact that my son was, what was in that stuff? What was, and this is before the internet. So it took me forever. I had to go to Europe to track it down. But all I wanted to know was, what was that homeopathy all about? It was so easy. It didn't harm in any way. And so the best sale is one that inspires the consumer to learn more afterwards, because they are so happy with the results of what they had. And that's where those where it's the combination specialty, that's the perfect position for them. Chestol for coughs. I mean, all those things are invaluable. The straightest, most, I won't do anything natural kind of person in the universe won't mind taking a remedy that's labeled sinusitis for their sinus.
So I think this concludes the question and answer period. If you are looking for information on labels and product ingredients, please check out AAHP's site, and you could also email them at info@aahp.info. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Dr. Grossman. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Joette. You provided a wealth of information. Thank you, AHP, for hosting the event and for inviting me to moderate. And I will hand it over to Mark Land.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrea. We do have a few more questions in the chat box, or in the Q&A box, if you want to keep going for a little bit longer. A few more questions for the panelists. If you can you see them?
And let me see.
If it's okay, I just had seen the question about the Cheerios consumer and what homeopathy is and why they should consider it. And, Dr. Grossman and Joette, as moms who are holistic, have covered this to a certain extent. But when you see the label and in plain language, it says no side effects, it says relieves cough, and it's simple, it's easy to read, it's bulleted. Those are the things that I think of about when I'm shopping. Just lay it out for us, plain as day.
Great. And yes, Mark, I opened up the Q&A window, and I did see a couple of great questions. So this question would be for any of the panelists. Do your consumers, do you see any interest, or would package size be a factor? Is there any impact on them making a decision if it's a larger package or a smaller package?
Honestly, my patients are shocked at how cheap homeopathic medicines are. I mean, nobody is used to going to the store and buying something for $6.95 and it doing anything. I mean, homeopathic remedies are so inexpensive that cutting down the package size in order to make it cheaper is silly. And I really don't think it makes a difference.
Well, I like the size, and most of my clients, students, and et cetera, are always happy with that size, because you can fit the top 5 or 10 medicines in your purse. You can throw them in a diaper bag. You can keep them in an athletic bag. You can throw them in the bag that you're going to use when you go out sailing that day. That's what makes it, as far as I'm concerned, super convenient. So the size is great. It's a little bit thinner than lipstick size, the best.
And can I just, I see that Linda Clemens had asked a question about stocking up. And I think the more educated consumer stocks up more. If they've had a positive experience with homeopathy for whatever condition, and then they see that there's a homeopathic remedy for fever, and a homeopathic remedy for teething, and a homeopathic remedy for allergies, then they will stock up. But that comes with education, and that comes with clear labeling. If one remedy is on the same shelf as a remedy that they're very happy with, then I do see my patients, which are typical consumers, then purchasing other things. Not to mention the fact that I used to tell my patients, every single home medicine cabinet with a brand new house should come with the most important homeopathic remedies in it, because they're not having those things in the house when you need them. You're not going to want to go to the store shopping when you get in an accident and need arnica. If you've been in an accident, you bump your head on the kitchen cabinet, you're not going to go shopping. But if you have arnica in the medicine cabinet, you're going to take it immediately. So there's certain products that should be in every home, and I think they could be marketed that way. You know, these are the ABCs of homeopathy: arnica, you know, bryonia chamomilla, or, you know, calendula. The popular remedies that are good for common complaints should be stocked up. Just like I have Band-Aids in my house together with alcohol just in case. Well, there's certain homeopathic remedies that really should be in every home just in case.
Well, also in terms of just in case with this coronavirus, the more often we get these kinds of events occurring in our world today, the more likely we're going to want to be stocked up, because we don't know how long anything is going to last. And I noticed that when I was at certain grocery stores, and I would look to see which homeopathic medicines were unstocked, and it was very, very clear to me that the ones that were missing, that hadn't been restocked yet, were those that had been noted for many people who were concerned about coronavirus, and they made the assumption that this or this or this would act. So yeah, I think there was a lot of stocking up. It wasn't just toilet paper.
Great. And the next question, Dr. Grossman, you shared your introduction to homeopathy. We would like to hear from Lisa and Joette on your experiences. What was your first success story?
First story, I'm having trouble remembering whether it was chest out for my kids with those toddlers, runny nose, coughing, or arnica for, you know, a friend had said that she was using it, and we had the tight shoulders from sleeping wrapped around the kids, or my husband for, you know, an injury in sports. So those were probably my first introductions. And then Nux vomica comes in there as well. That was probably once I learned a little bit more and read that package, I was hooked for that.
How about you, Joette?
My story is very similar to Dr. Grossman's, but I can give a little backstory on that. I was pregnant with my first son 34 years ago, and I had gone to a lecture that was offered by a conventional medical doctor who happened also to be using homeopathy. He was no longer practicing. He was going around the nation teaching from place to place. And I thought it was going to be on a completely different subject. It didn't matter to me because I didn't know what homeopathy meant. So here's speaking to that possibility as well, and how unimportant it is that people know exactly what it is. And when he started to explain how homeopathy acted for this condition or that, I will admit I was primed, because I had been unhappy with a lot of modern medicine the modern medical drugs that I had used in the past. So when he spoke, I was completely open. And shortly after, I gave birth to my son. 6 weeks later, he came down with a fever, not unlike Dr. Grossman's. It was 105.5. Scared the wits out of me. I knew nothing about homeopathy. I did have a book because I purchased a simple book. It was Dana Ullman's original book. And I had purchased a kit when I'd spoken to that, or when I had been a part of that audience that the doctor's presentation was being given to. And with that book, which had really very little to do with what I was dealing with in many ways, and that kit, I knew I had to do something. I knew that if I took my baby to the pediatrician, I knew exactly what was going to happen. Now, I'm not suggesting that other mothers do this, but I will say that I said, I've got to find the answer, because I don't want him getting an antibiotic. I do not want a 6-week-old baby to start with an antibiotic in his first few weeks of life. So I gave him a remedy. It was sulfur 30, and it's not necessarily the medicine that everyone uses, but in this particular situation, it was perfection. He had been sick for 2.5 days. My mother was sitting next to me. My best friend was in front of me. And my mother was praying and saying, we've got to get to the hospital. And I said, I've got to give this a try. I put it in his mouth, 3 little pellets in his mouth. And within about 40 minutes, he firmed up in my arms, commenced nursing, and the fever adroitly just melted away. It was gone. And I have to say that that son, who is now 33 years old, has never had a fever again. It never happened again. Now, is that because of that sulfur 30 back in 1986? It's hard to say, but I will say it worked so beautifully. And we said the same thing. What was that stuff? Are you kidding me? He's perfectly normal. And he was perfectly normal, slept normally, nursed normally all through the rest of those forthcoming days. So yeah, it was enough to change my thinking forever. And up until that time, I had been exploring supplements and vitamins, but diet, and it goes on and on. I mean, I'd been interested in some of these things on and off for years, but it wasn't until I saw that gobsmacking result that I was absolutely sold.
Great. This next question actually is very relevant, and I'll ask you first, Dr. Grossman. I know that you worked regularly with physicians in the New York City local hospitals. So what is the best approach, and what can you share what those meetings or those events are like?
Okay, well, the best approach is to be a really good homeopath. Because if you are a good homeopath and your patients get good results, then when they go to their conventional physicians, they will share what their experiences are. You know, Dr. McGillicuddy, you know, I'm glad that I'm here for you to check me out for my asthma, but can you believe that my digestive disorder has really tapered off because I tried homeopathy? And the doctor says, Mrs. Smith, you really tried homeopathy? I hear it's wacky. She goes, you know what? I did too, but I had some really good results. And here's the name of my homeopath. And if you ever want to talk to her, I hear that she speaks to other physicians. So a personal recommendation goes a very, very, very long way. And that's one thing. I never cold call physicians ever, because I don't want to have to take them all the way from here, way down here. But if they've been through their own patients, they contact me, and that happens frequently. Like if there are many pediatricians in New York City that will refer patients to me. Say a child has their 3rd ear infection. Instead of the doctor treating them for a 4th or a 5th ear infection, they'll say, listen, this child seems to have a tendency for recurrent ear infections. I think homeopathy might be a better option for you than the conventional amoxicillin. And here's someone. So whenever, I never like to force homeopathy on anybody. I never do that. But if someone seems curious, I'll take them as far as I think they're comfortable going. So in other words, if the patient says to me, should I tell my physician I tried homeopathy? I won't say yes for sure. What I'll say is, does it seem like your physician's open to it? Then mentioning it. If the physician responds by saying, wow, I'm surprised, and asks you a question, then take it a step further. But I never try to clobber it over anybody's head. And I also do a lot of referring. So I don't think you can't be selfish in the healing industry. If you have people that come to see you as a homeopath, and then say someone comes to you and they hurt their knee and they come to me for homeopathic remedy, I might also say to them, you really should follow up with a really good either PT or orthopedist or whatever it is. So I do a lot of give and take with physicians. I do not think it's wise to think of addressing physicians just so I want you to learn from me. You have to do a little give and take. So I will always speak to physicians such as, I'd like to know more about your practice, the kind of patients you enjoy seeing. What are the challenges that you have in your practice that I might be able to make your practice more helpful to you? In other words, there's no physician in the universe that likes to treat a child 20 times for ear infections. So I don't say to someone, you should do this instead of whatever you do as your conventional treatment. But what I say is, if you find patients that aren't responding well, then you know, I'm more than happy to co-manage that patient with you. And I do that in neurology, pediatrics, dermatology, OBGYN. So I have a lot of physicians that I work hand in hand with, and we have a very warm relationship.
Great, and it calls to mind something you said yesterday about integrated medicine rather than alternative medicine.
Right.
So the last question, I'm going to actually start with Lisa, and it will be for all of you. Lisa, can you answer from a mom consumer perspective? And then Dr. Grossman, I'm going to ask you from a practitioner's perspective. But Lisa, how are you preparing for back to school and cough, cold, flu season? And then I'm going to ask Dr. Grossman and Joette, how are you making recommendations for that?
Sure. So at the Holistic Moms Network, our primary goal is to support moms. So wherever you are in your journey, all parents actually, dads, grandmas are welcome. And so we're supporting them with what they want to know about. And we're currently providing a lot of support with current moms who are homeschooling to moms who want to start homeschooling. So that's just really a focus in our organization. So whatever you can take from that, you know, I guess that's what holistic moms are and families are looking at for the fall.
How about you, Joette? Are you making recommendations in preparation for cough, cold season?
Well, I author my blog every week, and I've been doing it for 11 years now. And so I try to author these particular articles to befit what's coming up next. So, for example, as school comes up, then we're talking about anxiety, about children going off to school for the first time, let's say kindergartners. What else might they be affected by? They might be affected by the colds that are common. So then I teach how to address a cold, get a diagnosis from your doctor. I too believe very strongly in folks having a team of doctor, chiropractor, etc., and then depending on themselves as well. And so I teach them, own these medicines, own this knowledge, and then when it shows up, because it's inevitable, that's life, stuff will happen. So if we know that, and you know pretty much what's going to happen, there might be an injury in the playground, etc., you want to know to own that arnica, to own that oscillococcinum, to own that ignatia or silica or gelsemium, to help with that girding of the child so they can go off to school. So yeah, I discuss it very thoroughly every late summer and into fall. It's one of the fun articles that I get to write every year.
Dr. Grossman?
Sure. Actually, that's a fun question because it's very broad. And you know, what could any mom do for her family? What could any dad do for his family? And the one thing we always have to remind everybody, the most important things for healing are given up to us free from the universe. Eat good, healthy foods, get plenty of rest, find a good way to deal with your stress. Have a wholesome diet, certainly get ample sleep. I say that to everybody because even if you don't have a penny to your name, you could start there. Once you have that taken place, I always say to people, when stresses come upon us, we generally fall apart in the same way time and time again. So when school starts, if you tend to get allergies, if you tend to get a nervous stomach, those things are the things that you can expect. Have them in your house now. Stock up now. You don't want to be shopping at the last minute. And it's when people say to me, you know, oh, I love homeopathy. I've used 200 different remedies. I generally know that they don't know what they're doing because each person doesn't need 200 remedies in the course of their lifetime. It's really only a handful or 2 handfuls. So basically stock up on the remedies you think you're going to need. And that's what I would say, number 1, in terms of homeopathy. And number 2, I would say, find a good source for you. If the website for the National Center for Homeopathy makes sense to you, it's clearly written for you and you like it, that's your go-to. if hearing someone's voice, listening to Joette's, webinars or Facebook Live events, if you're comfortable with that, if you're comfortable, then that's your go-to. But have something you can rely on so that when you have a question, you have somebody or some place to go for an answer. I know at the National Center for Homeopathy, we oftentimes have people writing to us, info@homeopathycenter.org, and we answer those always within 24 hours. If it means, is there a practitioner in my area, or what remedy should I take for this disorder? We really are very good at giving timely information that's quite useful. If we need to refer them to a manufacturer or a store or whatever, we always can do that. But I think the most important thing is just to tell people that these waves of illness come and they go. And the most important thing is to take a deep breath and to find out where the best answers for you are today. They certainly are getting rest, eating well, drinking, finding a good way to process your stress, and then stock up on the few valuable homeopathic medicines that your family seems to need time and time again. And that'll take care of 95% of the problems that you have coming up. It's a challenging time, and I think that people are comforted knowing that they've a plan in place and they've taken action steps as best as they can, in advance. Just taking away that whole anxiety factor is the best thing you could do for anybody.
It's an excellent note to close on. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to AHP. I will hand it over to Mark Bland.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I hear some echo. There we go. Thank you very much, Andrea, Lisa, Joette, and Dr. Grossman. Your insights were just tremendous, and we want to say that the AAHP will be distributing the full report in August to member companies, and it will also be available at that time to non-member companies. And that can be, I think the next slide gives us the contact email address. Yes, at the very bottom, theaahp.org is and also if you would like to have any questions, or if you have additional questions, please feel free to contact the AAHP via info@aahp.info. If you can't remember that, remember the website address, and there will be a contact opportunity there at the website. You will be receiving a survey, post-webinar survey, that we would please ask you to fill out. It helps us build better programs for the future and more valuable programs for you as we move forward. And then in conclusion, I want to just ask you to consider saving the date for the next upcoming event from AAHP. We will be doing a virtual summit, and it's titled Implementing HPUS Guidelines for FDA Compliance. That is September 23rd, beginning at 11:30 in the morning and concluding around 5 in the afternoon with a generous lunch break. We will be hearing from expert speakers that are working on challenging technical questions within homeopathic manufacturing. Please consider joining us for that. And we were also invited a speaker from the FDA to give us their perspective. And as I said earlier, the full report will be available in August, free to members, and a $100 fee for non-members. What you saw in the slides was roughly half of the data that we have available. So please consider, look forward to it if you're a member, and please consider purchasing it if you're a non-member. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and thank you again to each and every one of our panelists. And we're greatly appreciative of everything that you've done to bring this to success. Thank you again, and goodbye.